I think, and I know a lot of people think that you are a success story, but I'm sure that there have been challenges along that way. And that is what has led you and me to Journeys to Inspire. So tell me a little bit about that.
It's like that iceberg model. You see the tip of the iceberg and you see success, right? You see an IT woman, an executive, you see someone who's made it, or you look like you've made it, right? Because you only see the tip of the iceberg. I think for me, it's what lies underneath that iceberg. Those challenges, those conversations, those very difficult places. And, when people say, you're so lucky, it really triggers me. Because I don't feel luck plays a part in it. I feel you work very hard for your opportunities. You take the slack. When you enter the boardrooms, the playing fields are different. And there's a lot of things that you sacrifice to get there. Long hours. You miss out on kids. There's a huge price that goes with it, right? But it's that determination and courage. And I think for me, it's when someone says no to me is what pushes me forward. And I think that is part of how I landed up here, is to say, I don't want that to let it bother people, that someone said no to you. If one door closed, there are multiple doors that will open for you. You just have to have the grit and I think the perseverance to keep going. So underneath the iceberg, there are many, many, many challenges. And it comes with all sorts of biases. It comes with imposter syndrome. It comes with, being a woman in a male-dominated world, especially in an IT world. There's many insecurities. Am I good enough to be here? I've understood at this table. So I think, and there's also then juggling your daily life, right? Your professional life plus your daily life and your family life. So there's definitely a trade-off for success here.
Absolutely. And you and I have previously spoken about, I love that you brought up imposter syndrome as well, because a lot of people believe and they see us and they get this view of what they see on LinkedIn or wherever else. And there's this view that we don't have imposter syndrome. And I love that you brought that up because all of us do, right? I mean, I've spoken to male colleagues as well in senior positions and they've had the same thing. But the one thing I do want to pick up on, Zax, is the fact that we do have this mutual role in life to play as not just being an executive, but also being a mom. And I struggle with that myself as well. And I'd love to tell you to tell me, I mean, you're doing it a lot longer than I am. You're a lot further in your career as well. What's the advice you would give to not just new moms, but moms that are struggling there?
So that's a very interesting point, I think, because they're not mutually exclusive, right? You have to do them both, and you have to do them both 200% or to the best of your ability. I think having always taken this approach of being independent, feisty, and I don't need anyone is the wrong approach. You can't do it all by yourself. It really does take a village to raise kids. So for those days that you can't pick up, you have to phone a friend at school. For those sports events you can't attend, you make friends with the moms on the group, and they are more than willing to take pictures for you and send to you, right? I think you need to show up for the important ones, to have that open relationship with kids, and for them to know that you're there when they need you, to have those important conversations around bullying, around, and I know like a phone is a big thing, especially at a tween age, right? I need a phone, or my friends have phones. But then there's dangers that come with that, like around cyberbullying. Do you have the emotional capacity to deal with an argument? Because kids hide behind screens, right? And that's where cyberbullying starts. So to have those kind of barriers and conversations, you really have to sometimes, make peace with the fact that you're not going to be a gourmet mom. You're going to have toasted sandwiches, and that's okay as long as they fit. There's many different things. You use mobile services, you use online shopping services, where you can save time because you're always trying to make up. And I think for me, the guilt is a huge thing. It never went away, and it still doesn't go away, because I always want to be there 200%, but I also want to be 200% my job. But there are some days work wins, and I think some days home wins. For me, work-life balance was always a myth. It wasn't I'd leave work at 3 o'clock, I'd go to the gym, and then I'd go home and be a mom. It was never like that for me. For me, I've always been, some days I'd work very late and some days I'd work very early to see to them. But for them also to be shown what strong woman is, that you can do it. You can study at this age. You can finish a degree. You can have both. You also have to decide what's important for you. If this life is
Right.
not for you, then you choose, something less intense. But if this life is for you, then you choose both and you find a way to make it work. It does help to have a support system
Hmm.
around you. Not always the easiest to ask for help because when you're so used to being stuff yourself. But I think it's important to know that you have it there when you do need it.
Amazing, Zax. I mean, I've told you numerous times you are so inspiring to me, right? And I threw that question at you because I think it's something I'm even struggling with a lot of the time, and I'm sure there are other women. And that helped so much because you're right, the mom guilt. Wow. I mean, I've missed important occasions in my first son's life, and I try never to make that same mistake. But I just got something from you is that you can't always be present, right? And I think if you are, you push yourself to an extent that is probably you're gonna end up breaking, right? So we have to call it at some point. We have to say we can't do everything. We can be super moms most of the time, but I think it is difficult, and I thank you for that. And you are an amazing inspiration to your daughters. I know you completed your MBA recently as well, so kudos to that and well done, being such an amazing mom and then still doing all of that. So unbelievable.
Thank you. So with my first daughter, we used to go to extramurals on a Saturday from 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock because I worked the whole week and I wanted to make up for it. Right. By the end of the day, she would be frustrated and exhausted. I would be frustrated and exhausted. And when the second one came, it was like, no, you do one extramural in a week, and that's how it would go. But again, it was that guilt. Like I wanted her to do all the extramurals and have that same, exposure that everyone else had. But yeah, again, you need to your battles, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, two kids is tough. I mean, you're juggling a whole lot, right? So